Imagine your life without education. Would be affected your future, your opportunities, and maybe your growth. And for many women around the world, this is a very harsh reality. Without access to education, a woman may face a limited job prospect, lower income, and maybe limited power to make decisions in for herself and her family. And we believe that education is a fundamental right to shape who we are and what we want to achieve. Hi everyone, my name is Nailul and welcome to our forum. Today we will be discussing an important topic, which is discrimination, specifically regarding women who cannot access education. Now let's hear from our members. Each of us will take one card and discuss in a very interesting forum. So I got my card. The question is, what is the current situation of gender discrimination in access to education, particularly for women and girls? Well, I would say the situation is quite complex and varies in different parts of the world. In some countries, gender discrimination in education has decreased significantly, but in the others, perhaps it's still a major issue. One example is child marriage, which is still happening in some part of rural area in Indonesia and some countries as well perhaps. When a girl married in a very young age, it often means that this is the end of her education. She's expected to take care of her new family and education become less priority. And this is not only affect her future but also can limit her economic opportunities and also personal growth. So even though education is technically available, cultural and societal pressure as well can make it more difficult for girls to access education. I think it's a big issue that requires ongoing and a big effort to change that, like the stronger laws against the child marriage and the programs also to encourage parents to support their daughters' education instead.
So when people talk about education today, a lot of us assume things are already equal between boys and girls. Like school is just school. Everyone can go regardless of any age, any gender, anything. You guys can go to school anytime, anywhere possible. But when you actually look at data and real life situations around the world, it becomes clear that girls and women still face a lot of discrimination in education. For example, global reports show that millions of girls are still not in school, and even if they are in school, they are more likely than boys to drop out before even finishing their secondary education. And I think that alone is a pretty big sign that something isn't fully equal yet. And you might wonder why. There should be a reason why this still happens and why girls still face discrimination. So I think one major factor of this is poverty. So in some family, especially when money is limited, parents have to make a tough decisions about who gets to continue studying. And unfortunately, I think boys often gets more prioritized than girls because people believe that boys will grow up to financially support their family, and girls on the other hand might be expected to stay at home or help with household chores or care for their younger siblings. And another big factor I think is cultural expectations. So in certain communities, girls are expected to get married young or focus on family responsibilities instead of their own education. So when early marriage and early pregnancy happens, education tends to be difficult to pursue. And it's not always that girls don't want to study, but it's because their environment just doesn't make it possible. And safety is also something that we don't really talk about because in some areas schools are far away and girls might have to walk long distances to get there. And families can worry about harassment or safety during these journeys, so they decide it's safer for them to stay at home and not even continue their education. That obviously creates a huge barrier to education. Even in places where girls do attend school regularly, inequality can still show up in smaller ways. For example, girls are often discouraged from pursuing subjects like science, technology, engineering, or math. Like, you might hear stereotypes like those subjects are for boys, which can slowly affect girls' confidence in pursuing their dreams. Even if, like, for example, it shows that they have good grades, for example. So I think education should be one of the most equal spaces in society. When girls receive the same educational opportunities as boys, the benefits go far beyond just the individual student. Educated women are more likely to have better job opportunities, improve their family living conditions, and contribute positively to their communities. So, even though the world has definitely made progress over the years, the evidence still show that gender inequality in education hasn't completely disappeared. Things like poverty, cultural expectations, and safety concerns and stereotypes all continue to create barriers for girls. So, I think recognizing these issues are really important because once we understand the reasons behind the inequality, it becomes much easier to work towards a solution and make education truly accessible for everyone.
Hello, my name is Elwanda Azura, and I will discuss the applicability of theory in a study me and my friends did about discrimination against women in education. So, we know gender discrimination in education is a global issue, but what keeps us asking is why, despite the global efforts, do these inequalities in opportunity and representation still exist until today? And to understand this, we have to look at the psychological mechanisms that are involved in discriminations. This starts with gender stereotypes, which is the generalized belief we hold about the abilities of men and women. And in education, these stereotypes often label boys as naturally gifted in STEM, while girls are funneled toward languages and caregiving. These ideas, they impact the expectations of our environment, including our teachers, parents, or even the students ourselves. And a research shows that even high-achieving women can lose their confidence in STEM because these social labels suggest that they don't belong there. This leads us to a concept known as stereotype threat, and it is proposed by Steele in 1997. This happens when individuals feel a threat in the air. This pressure can potentially confirm a negative stereotype about their social group. When girls are repeatedly told they are incompetent in certain subjects, they internalize these beliefs. The resulting anxiety can actually lower their academic performance and motivation. Well, it will create a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps these discriminations alive. And currently, women are still underrepresented in senior academic leadership, like department heads and professors. When female students don't see women in positions of these authorities, they lack role models. And this reinforces the assumption that academic authority is a male role, reducing a woman's motivation or confidence to claim that space for herself. And discrimination still persists because it's a cycle. Cultural norms and stereotypes create psychological barriers like stereotype threats, which then limits women's access to leadership, leaving fewer role models to break the original stereotype. And understanding these theories is the first step in dismantling the structural and social attitudes that hold education back.
Hello everyone, my name is Shamim and I'm here to answer the next question, which is what practical solutions or strategies could help reduce discrimination and improve women's access to education? Now that we have understood the deep psychological roots of gender discrimination in education, the crucial question is how do we fix it? Because this issue is tied to internalized stereotypes, bias, and social conditioning. A simple policy change is not enough. We need a multi layered approach. We have broken our solutions down into short term, mid term, and long term strategies. each designed to progressively dismantle discrimination while empowering women psychologically. In the short term, our goal is rapid response, creating safer environments right now. So, first, we need awareness and sensitization programs for both students and staff to acknowledge unconscious bias. Psychologically, recognizing your own cognitive bias is the first step to changing behavior. Second, schools must establish safe, confidential reporting mechanisms. This reduces fear and learned helplessness, giving female students a sense of control over their educational experience. Third, we must provide immediate psychological supports like counseling to help students rebuild the self esteem damaged by discrimination. Finally, teachers can adopt inclusive classroom practices immediately, like using diverse teaching materials to boost female students' sense of belonging. Moving to the midterm, we need structural adjustments that promote sustained behavioral change. This starts with curriculum reform. Psychologically, representation matters. So, when girls see successful women in textbooks and case studies, it directly challenges internalized stereotypes and expands what they believe is possibly for themselves. We also recommend formal mentorship programs to connect female students with successful women in academia, which helps counteract feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome. Now, we must engage parents and communities through workshops. Family support is a massive psychological determinant of success. So, when parents value a daughter's education, her motivation and resilience skyrocket. Finally, our long term strategies aim to transform societal norms permanently. This requires a cultural shift through media and public discourse to shape collective cognition over time. But most importantly, interventions must start at the earliest stages of development. Gender neutral early childhood education prevents the formation of these discriminatory stereotypes before they even take root in a child's mind. To sustain this, now governments must integrate gender equality into national education policies and ensure that educated women have equal access to fair wages in the economy. Because ultimately, economic independence enhances self esteem and autonomy. It creates a positive feedback to loop where today's educated women become the role models for tomorrow. To conclude, gender discrimination in education is maintained by powerful psychological mechanisms like attribution errors and social conformity. But by applying these targeted psychology backed solutions, we can break those cognitive biases and create a truly equitable future. Thank you all for listening.
So, my closing statement would be when we support women in accessing quality of education, we are not only transform their lives but also create opportunities for greater progress and equality for all. Thank you very much.
I think women and girls deserve the same opportunities to learn, grow, and achieve their dreams. I don't think education should be something that is limited to gender. I think everyone deserves education regardless of their gender or regardless of their age or their situations. I think having a voice and like creating a space for girls to have their own voice is really important because it's not only strengthening individual voices, but it's also strengthening families and communities because then we inspire more women that they have voices and they have the ability to achieve their dreams. There's a really good quote from Malala that I know. It goes, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world," which really highlights how important education is in our society. So I think this is a reminder that every girl deserves a voice, an education, and the freedom to choose their future.